Hi friends, welcome to today's video and happy 2023 in the season of this new year among us. I want to do a video giving some tips to be your happiest and healthiest self. I think every new year is a great opportunity to reevaluate and set new goals and intentions. So I broke this up into two kind of sections. It's going to cover physical health as well as mental health. Oh yeah, I'm out in the park right now. I thought it'd be really nice and peaceful, and it kind of is, but there's somewhat noise going on, so please don't mind that. Apologies if it gets a little noisy, but yeah, I hope you guys enjoy. Let's go ahead and get on into it. So starting off with some physical health, as I said, one tip is to treat your workouts as play and not just a task to get done. Especially as I'm sitting here in this park and watching all the kids running around, learning soccer, and I just kind of thought about how, I don't know, at a certain point when you're not, playing sports or having recess at school, at a certain age, you just sort of stop doing exercise for fun, and that's so weird. And I think that's what makes health so difficult for a lot of us, trying to get back to that mindset we had as kids. Workouts or just exercise, moving our bodies, it is play, and we should be happy we're able to do it and look forward to it. And so some tips for that are, of course, to find something you actually enjoy doing and doesn't feel so much like a chore. Something I've found joy in is weightlifting, and I think the kind of mindset behind weightlifting and why it works for a lot of people is that you can really see progress, and I feel like it's just very empowering. So if you've been thinking about that, I definitely recommend giving it a try. This was pretty much the first year, I think, where I got more into it. I never thought of myself as a strength workout person, and I'm still not very good, but I've improved so much, and that's why I've found so much joy in it, seeing that improvement. Connected to that is to just practice a growth mindset. Going back to how I was saying, it's great to kind of return to your mindset as a kid. Also, that growth mindset is something I think we lose as we age as well. When you're a kid learning any sport, you almost never go into it expecting to be a pro, and somehow now when I'm older, I expect to know what I'm doing when I'm trying new things. Life doesn't work like that. Regain that mindset where you're not going to be perfect at first, but again, that joy is found in the improvement. My next tip is to focus on overall well-being, not just fitness, and especially fitness kind of aesthetics and looks. Now, this is something I've become really passionate about in a way. I think aesthetics can definitely be a component of it. I think all of us have things we naturally, just find attractive, and it's okay to modify and work your body, especially since working out is a pretty natural way of doing that. But I think if you are treating that as the central and sometimes only purpose of your workouts, that can be very harmful and of course unsustainable. Don't just think about getting a larger butt, getting abs. Having certain physical features are not a really good metric of how you're doing health-wise. Those are just a very showy thing. It is pretty much purely for aesthetic, and of course by working out you'll hopefully see some physical results, but that again shouldn't be the focus. Alrighty, new day, continuing with these tips. Next one is to simply sleep. I think sleep is one of those parts of health so many of us neglect, even though it's so simple. It can just be hard to modify your sleep pattern, especially if you've been doing it for literally years and you think that's just the sleep you are used to. Rest is that time for your body to actually recover. Everything in your body is working all day, and those few hours of sleep are when you're actually doing some healing. We have homework, we have work, we have family stuff. Just prioritizing sleep, because it's one of those components of health that are basically free. It is free. Modifying your schedule, making sure you allot time earlier in the day to get your work done so you're not pulling all-nighters. Maybe modifying your work or school schedule if you are realizing some overwork is being done, which I'll talk about a little bit more later. Just setting a reminder or something on your phone saying 10 p.m. is my bedtime. Though bedtimes feel like they're for little kids, they really should be for everyone. And just ensuring, you get those 6+ hours of sleep. I think 7 or 8 is a better goal. It's so simple, but I think it gets swept under the rug. Another super simple one is to stay hydrated. Now I feel like a good general rule of thumb is about 8 cups or 8 glasses, but it's really based on your body weight. A good rule is to make sure your pee is not yellow and make sure your throats don't feel dry. Make sure you kind of track your water intake either with a big like hydro flask or just counting the number of cups you're taking in. Personally, I notice I can easily get headaches if I'm dehydrated. I get horrible period cramps if I'm dehydrated, and like actually painful kind of things where I can't even get up. Water does so many things for your body. It lubricates joints, it cleanses toxins. That's pretty much what your pee is. Also, another thing to be aware of is that fruits and vegetables are super high in water content also. So if you're kind of getting bored with just water, make sure you're getting, and you should be getting either way, lots of fruits and vegetables. Things like smoothies, I'm a huge fan of. They're just so much tastier and you're getting different nutrients while also staying hydrated. And my final health related one is to stick to a whole food plant-based diet. So a whole food plant-based diet means you're focusing on things that are less processed. So trying to shy away from chips, deep frying. To me, it doesn't mean you're cutting out meat. I kind of just never try to make that the central part of my meal. For example, that's not ordering a steak and potato plate. That might be ordering a salad with some chicken on top. Pretty much red meat is kind of the worst. That one is what is linked mainly to things like heart disease and cancers, and so that's the main one to be aware of, and especially processed meats as well. So things like bacon, hot dogs. The more processed something is, likely it's less healthy for you. Some products, it's inevitable that they'll be processed. Things like tofu even are processed, but it's just the severity of it. You want to look for foods where the good things are kept in that food and no bad things are added. Tofu, you know, it's processed, but all the core parts of it are still there, versus something like chips where it's very refined, a lot of oil and salt and stuff is added. Another thing to consider is that things aren't black and white. There's no healthy and unhealthy foods. Like everything, it exists on a spectrum. So just try to constantly think of better options for yourself. It doesn't have to be perfect, just better than something else you might reach for. A good exercise to do for yourself maybe right now is just think of like your top 3 favorite foods that maybe aren't the healthiest. What are some alternatives I could do that maybe are similar or even the same food, but what could I add to it to make it better? So maybe for a pasta, make sure I have a very nutrient dense sauce to go with it. Add tons of vegetables, maybe lay off the meat. Or an ice cream, maybe I can opt for a smoothie instead. Equally sweet and delicious, but not as much fats and sugars in there. So another thing too, processed sugar versus unprocessed sugar. Plain fruits have unrefined sugar, so it's in the full form with fiber. That's what I forgot to talk about. Fiber is such a key thing, and that's why a whole foods plant-based diet really works. It has a lot of fiber. A lot of us don't get fiber as much as we should in our natural diets because we're so meat and refined starch focused. So just being aware of those fiber rich foods, which again are usually less processed. Whole grains, beans, lentils, fruits and vegetables, those can kind of be your central part. You can totally add a little bit of sweets or meats on the side, but it just shouldn't be the main part of your dish. And that's kind of a good idea too, to kind of crowd your plate. Don't think of restricting foods, you really just want to think of replacement. The mountains are just so beautiful today. Look at that. Wow. Okay, now moving on to some of the more mental health related tips. I'm going to start off with one mental health tip that definitely relates to physical health as well. And that is, when possible, to lighten your load. And this is a lesson I've definitely learned in the past year, and I'm trying to continue to do. I'm in university still, and there are definitely days where I'm just overwhelmed, feel very mentally drained, and I'll honestly just not do some homework. And maybe that is bad advice, but at least when you're in school, like, nothing is that serious. Grades do not matter that much, and especially if it's like small assignments, you know, that's what I think to myself, like, will this actually affect my grade that much? If it's a small like weekly assignment, I might just let it go. If I'm gonna take a few hours out of my day to do that, and there's other things that I rather do, sometimes not even like responsibilities, but just things that are maybe more fun, and I feel like I need that break, I'm just gonna let go of that assignment. And I know it's a lot harder with work. You can't just say no to your boss and not do something, but that's when I bring up the point of seeking help. I think especially in this day and age, mental health is becoming a lot more mainstream. Like, people recognize that it is important, and burnout is a real thing. You know, bring up to your boss or even professors, teachers, that you're having a really hard time. And maybe the best thing to do is, like, ahead of time, maybe ask for extensions on things. And of course, the worst thing they can do is say no, but I think it's always worth giving a shot. A lot of things in your life you can simply say no to. There was this contest I had entered that I was supposed to present at one week, and it's kind of towards the end of the semester. I didn't really expect to make it to the final round, so I was kind of caught off guard. I just didn't have a lot of confidence in myself, nor the time to put together a project I felt proud of. So I went ahead and pulled out of it. It's always a matter of just thinking to yourself, how important is it to you, and how much do you want to put into it? How much can you possibly get out of it? Letting go of things should be totally okay. I just say this because stress is a huge part of mental and physical health. It literally like drains your body as well as your mood. Certain times of this year I was just super stressed out and my mood was horrible, very irritable. If your body is under this chronic stress, it's just harder to deal with stuff. When I was super stressed, when I had gotten sick, and same thing goes for like a lot of friends and family I've observed. When you're overwhelmed, you often don't have the energy to invest in your diet, your exercise, your sleep, and just everything kind of comes crumbling down. Totally an ambassador for taking mental health days. It's something, I don't know, I just did throughout school, to be honest. My mom would let me stay home and stuff if I was just feeling very overwhelmed, and I think that's something that should continue. You know, if you have sick days at work, use it, even if it's more of like a mental rest day. We all reach points in the year that are just very overwhelming, and it should be normalized to take those breaks or withdraw from things when you need it. Next one is kind of lighthearted, but it's to wear whatever you want, and along with this, just kind of present yourself however you want. Do things to your body and wear things that you really like, and kind of express yourself through that way, and don't limit yourself by any things. By this I mean not necessarily following trends. I think totally if you like them, go ahead and follow them, but don't feel like you need to keep up to date with things. Just wear the things you like, and a good tip for that is to just go thrifting. You can really judge your own taste because everything is like one of a kind, so you can pick out what you naturally find appealing. And with this, I'm also talking about kind of body confidence stuff and not letting certain parts of your body limit yourself from wearing certain styles. It might be insecure of your arms or your belly. Me personally, I have a really flat chest, and I used to be so insecure about wearing like low cut and revealing tops just because it really spotlights how nothing is there. But I really thought about it, and it's like, why am I letting that play such a role in how I express myself? You know, if I like a top, I should buy it if I want to wear that style of top, not like it and then think, oh, I can't wear that because of how my boob size is or something, or I can't wear a crop top because my belly's gonna stick out. Forcing yourself to wear those pieces where you might be a little insecure going out in it, I think it really builds up your confidence. Even if you're not a super fashion type person, I think we all have styles and colors that bring us some joy and really feel like you spending that time each day to put together an outfit you feel really confident in is a great way to boost your mood. Even when it comes to like hair coloring or tattoos, I got my first tattoo this year. These things are just forms of self-expression really, and they can be fun or they can be deep and meaningful. It's really up to you to do that. Don't let anyone tell you what to wear or not to wear, whether or not to get a tattoo or color your hair or get a piercing. These are all things that are solely affecting us, and I think if these little changes can make us feel more ourselves, it's a great thing. We shouldn't let these little insecurities or fear of judgment prevent us from doing those things. Another good goal is to practice embracing your natural body. I know makeup and like hairstyling and all that kind of stuff is also sort of a form of self-expression, but I think it's all in like the amount and frequency you do it. There's a certain point where sometimes you almost forget what you naturally look like. I think it's just so worth it to spend more time in your natural appearance and just stop focusing so much on how you look as well. That's something I tried doing more in 2022, even with like posting things on social media, not being so nitpicky about it, just saying like, oh, I like this, I look happy in it, and I'm gonna post it, before I'd spend literally like hours examining every little part of my skin or body. If it's like a bikini picture, looking at stretch marks, like literally no one is going to be examining it that harshly except yourself. Recognizing you are your own worst critic. And yeah, just going back to like the makeup thing, I never wore too much makeup before, but even more so now, like whenever I post pictures, I'm almost never wearing makeup, or like very minimally. Appreciating my skin or my face shape might be a little imperfect. I have round cheeks, I'm not gonna spend so much time contouring it. There is such a big culture around body positivity, but a lot of what we do really goes against that. Something I can also think about is like lash extensions, even practices like shaving and waxing. I've gotten more used to just letting my hair grow out. I'm not gonna spend so much time worrying about it. It's kind of just more of an afterthought when I feel like it's necessary. Body modifications or hair modifications, you know, like straightening naturally curly hair or getting cosmetic surgery. Even with all this body positivity talk, those things are still so popular. I'm not telling you that you need to stop wearing makeup or doing any of these procedures. I'm not saying those things are absolutely evil. I think it's just super important to ask yourself, why are you feeling the need to do these things? Is it because you personally feel they need to get done? Or is it because you subconsciously know all these beauty standards placed on ourselves and in society, and those are influencing your way of thinking? People always say, oh, as long as you're doing it for yourself, it's okay. But what does that even mean, really? If we were all living in our own little island, we wouldn't be feeling the need to look a certain way. We wouldn't be examining our bodies and thinking they need changes. To me, things that are more self-expression would be things like nail coloring or tattoos. Those I see as forms of art and art on your body. Even with makeup, it can be totally like art. But I think, like I said, if you get so used to seeing yourself in a done-up way, and especially with more serious things like cosmetic surgery, I think it's just so important to really question your thought process, because chances are you can get that same confidence through self-reflection and doing things that will improve your self-worth, not associated to your appearance. Overall, kind of just adopt a more casual attitude about your body. Recognize how it functions and don't focus so much on how it looks. Remind yourself that you don't need to be perfect to be beautiful. My next tip is to practice mindful shopping. And now by this, I pretty much mean think about how long you'll be able to use the products you're buying, as well as to think about the broader effects of your purchases, the environmental or social effects. Think about how much the workers might be getting paid to create a product so cheap, if you're going to be able to use these products for many years, or if it's gonna fall apart in the next couple of months and end up in the landfill. I also wrote an article, I'll link down below, about the topic of overconsumption, especially with the holidays we just moved past. Go ahead and give that a read. I talk a little bit more about this concept of mindful shopping. I don't think a lot of us are horribly materialistic, but we can easily get into these ideas that we need the newest, greatest phone, and we'll replace it because our phone company is giving oopsies. And yeah, we'll replace it because our phone company is giving us a free one essentially. And just with so many things, technology, clothing, so many things in our lives are so disposable, and I really hope we can all move away from that and spend more on things that maybe matter more, things like experiences, not focusing so much on the status that owning certain things might give us. Just think quality over quantity. I'll also link down below a great video by Lena Norms. She is a great content creator. She has some questions to ask yourself. It was made for Black Friday, but it definitely applies to just all purchases year round. Practice mindful shopping. It'll help planet and also your mental health, give you more time to invest in things that might help you a little bit more than these superficial things that you think bring you joy, but it's only temporary. And if you are shopping, along with this, also think buying secondhand when you can. It's about focusing more of your time and energy and money on what might bring you more actual joy and memories. Next is to create more than you consume, and in this one I'm talking mainly about social media as well as just media in general. So to me, this idea of creating more than you consume is to make sure whatever you're seeing and watching so much, you also make time to do yourself. So for me, for example, I really loved watching fashion content, so I went ahead and started making fashion content myself. You really like cooking content, make sure you're taking time to cook meals for yourself and not just watching it. If you like scrolling through art, make sure you're also doing that for yourself. Chances are anything you're spending time consuming, you do really appreciate, so might as well make time to do it yourself. I don't think it's a matter of cutting out social media. I think it's just a matter of balancing it out with hobbies. Not only social media, but say you're just watching TV shows and movies all the time, you can definitely enjoy those, and it's a sort of creative outlet, you know, watching stories. But maybe you might want to write a story yourself, or maybe just something in those movies or TV shows inspire you to do an activity. Just being inspired not only by the things you watch, but being inspired by yourself. Next tip is to have a neutral mindset with things. So I thought of this mainly because just thinking about how divided we are with things like politics. People see things always as black and white when everything's always on a spectrum. This idea of having a neutral mindset is to just really compose yourself in all aspects of life, not only politics, but just disagreements you have with friends or family, significant others. Try not to get swayed by your emotions so much and just speak calmly, think calmly. I feel like so many of us think of one side as right and the other as wrong, but really it's just different perspectives. There is no right and wrong most times. Remembering this can just alleviate a lot of tension. So many of us get into heated arguments when we aren't thinking in this level-headed way. Anger management and just like emotional control is such a mature trait to have. Almost nothing in life is that serious to get worked up about. Even when they are serious, there are better ways to communicate, to actually reach whatever you're trying to achieve. It will not only help your relationships, but also yourself. If you're less consumed by these feelings of anger and just overall tension, things won't affect you so much. You'll hear different points of view and just have an open mind to it instead of being like, oh, that's wrong, I need to change their way of thinking. And finally, my last tip is to remember that we're all the same, but different in ways. For this one, I'm mainly talking about comparison. We're all working toward the same goals, essentially. All of us in life want to be happy, we want to be successful, we want to be fulfilled. And though we all have those same goals, we all have very different values and circumstances. I think a lot of people can relate. There's a certain age where people start hitting these milestones and you feel like, man, I'm behind on things. You really have to reflect on, do you actually want to be hitting those same milestones they are? Like, are you actually ready for kids, for example? Are you actually ready to move out of your parents' house? It might just be a matter of circumstances as well. Like maybe they had certain privileges you didn't have. And even if they didn't, just realize that they're probably working just as hard as you are. We're all working hard. Having this idea that we should just be happy for other people's accomplishments, and then maybe if I'm really inspired by what they've done personally, you know, try to do things in my own life that'll also make me feel proud of myself. Thank you so much for listening to today's video. I hope you found it helpful. I hope you're all having a great 2023 so far and can use some of these tips and reminders to help you become a better person yourself. Please comment down below tips you really enjoyed from this and things maybe yourself that you're trying to implement, and let's just foster some great discussion down in the comments. Thank you so much. Have a happy new year, and I'll see you next time. Bye.